Assembly. According to ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, the changes followed a resolution in a meeting of the Azimio Parliamentary Group held on Tuesday. These changes were announced following the resignation of the former minority leader Opiyo Wandayi, who is expected to take over the Ministry of Energy if his nomination is approved by Parliament.
Naibu kiongozi wa walio wachache Mheshimiwa Robert Mbui alikuwa pale kutoka bunge la kitaifa. Mheshimiwa Enoch Wambua ambaye ni seneta wa Kitui na ndiye naibu wa kiongozi wa walio wachache ndani ya bunge la Senate alikuwepo, na wabunge wengi wa Wiper.
Out of those 4 positions that are vacant, we would like the party leadership to consider to give one of those positions to a woman. We are all aligned, and we are saying that the woman that we are putting forward to represent the women of Kenya, to represent the women of Azimio, to represent the women of ODM is Her Excellency Madam Gladys Nyasuna Wanga.
Hizo viti za Central Committee, mojawapo mama sasa apewe nafasi ya kufanyia kazi chama. Na tunajua ya kwamba huyu ni mama amejitolea muhanga, si tu katika kaunti yake ya Homa Bay, bali pia kwa kazi ya chama ameifanya.
Now, the University Academic Staff Union, UASU, has issued a 7-day strike notice due to leadership disputes at the institution that led to the suspension of Vice-Chancellor Stephen Kiama. This comes after Professor Margaret Jesang Hutchinson took over as acting Vice-Chancellor of the University of Nairobi following the suspension of Kiama. She will serve for 3 months before further decisions are made. Kiama was suspended by the University Council for alleged poor performance, including failing to account for the university's debt rising from 9 billion shillings to 20 billion shillings in his 5-year tenure.
Delay in disbursing the July salaries to the staff of the University of Nairobi is actually a result of the University Council not getting its act together. As UASU, we are alive to the fact of the Council's powers on deciding who becomes the CEO. We are also aware that the Council is supposed to ensure the institution's financial fidelity. We demand that salaries be paid immediately and with due consistency every month. If at all our demands are actually not going to be met, we are going to call our members. We always have a tool in industrial relations.
UASU leadership at the University of Nairobi is known. So I'm not going to allow council chairs to pick rumors on the streets.
Police from Shinyalu constituency, Kakamega County, are searching for a man suspected of killing his wife by stabbing her in Muraka village, Shinyalu constituency, on Tuesday morning. It is alleged that the two were quarreling over a phone after the deceased Beatrice Lihavi, 46 years of age, accused her husband of having an affair before the angry husband stabbed her in the neck and fled. Residents added that the couple had frequent disputes over money. The area's assistant chief condemned the act and said an investigation has begun to find the suspect.
Kila mara sister yangu analalamika akifanya biashara yake, huyu jamaa anamuibia pesa alafu anapotea. Kidogo kama baada ya siku 2 anarudi, anajifanya ni mtu mzuri, tena wanarudiana. Walikuwa wanasosania simu, laini za simu. Walikuwa wanapokonyana simu, huyu anachukua baadaye huyo jamaa kavunja hiyo simu. Sasa mambo ya simu inaenda pamoja na pesa.
Hapo mkumu mochari nimepata amedungwa kisu kwa shingo na amelazwa pale amekufa. Kwa ukweli ni jambo la huzuni. Haifai mtu kutoa uhai wa mwingine. Iwapo kiwango kipi mmekosana naye, haifai utoe mtu uhai.
Huyu ni mtu mbaya, ni mtu wa kuuza bangi, mtu wa kufuta bangi, ni mlevi, hata kuna vitu vinaitwa shashi yeye anatumia. Na watu ambao wanatumia shashi lazima wafanye mambo kama haya. Hiyo zingine ningependa tu kusema hivi. Wasichana pia wakiwa wanataka kukaa na mtu wajue wanakaa na mtu aina gani, kwa sababu hii si kisa ya kwanza kufanyika area hii. Nafikia wananchi wamekumbuka, kuna msichana alikuwa anafanya jua kama kali kama huyu, alichinjiwa hapo kwa shingo alichinjwa mpaka wanakinga damu kwa shingo na pesheni, na tena alikuwa tu msichana mpole kama huyu. Mpaka mimi nimeshangaa hii area ni kitu gani kinafanyika mbaya. Hii ni kisa ya 3. Mtu akija kupangisha nyumba inasaidi ujue huyu mtu anatoka wapi, ni mtu aina gani. Nataka kitambulisho, sisi watu wa serikali tuhusishwe. Hata kama ametoka tutaenda tufika kutuuliza chifu ya huko, huyu ni mtu mzuri. Maana kuna watu wengi wamepangwa malandi hapa, watu wa uaji wametoka mbali. Na pia anafanya jua kali, na huyu ni mtu hana kazi. Akipata msichana ameuza vitu pesa yake, anataka kutumia nguvu kumnyang'anya. Huko anamnyang'anya, na hata simu ndio amejijulisha kwa kila msichana. Usiku anamnyanyasa kingono, tena pia pesa yake anachukua. Hiyo si hata ni uchungu.
Youth from Mombasa County have been encouraged to embrace maritime education to secure employment opportunities in the blue economy sector. According to Presidential Advisor Karisa Nzai, the government has created jobs in the sector to help youths escape crime and drug abuse. He also advised the youth to refrain from participating in the protests that have been planned for Thursday, August 8th, and instead use alternative means to present their proposals.
Bwana Karisa, ongelesha mawili matatu, alafu
malalamiko mliokuwa nayo vijana yalikuwa ni ya maana, kwa sababu mgala muwe na haki yake umpe. Matatizo walioyazungumza na serikali ikayabeba na rais akaamua kufanya kile alichokifanya. Ni wakati huu sasa mumpe rais nafasi lile ambalo halijaweza kutengenezwa kutoka sasa mpaka mwezi wa 8, hiyo tarehe 8 ambao wanataka wayaweke bayana, wayaweke wana nafasi hawa vijana. Kama wako na kiongozi waweze kwenda kwa television, waweze kwenda kwa magazeti, waweze kwenda kwa maredio, waseme sisi vijana hatujaridhishwa na hili na serikali. Vijana nataka kuwaambia, kama una maisha ya kuishi, jifikirie kwanza kabla uende ufanye maneno ambayo yako kinyume cha sheria. Badala ya kukaa mitaani, waende kwa hizi TVET zetu. Tumeziempower hizi TVET ili kwamba wakiwa na certificate, wakati uchumi samawati hapa unafaidisha wengi, hawa vijana wa hapa mitaani wataacha kwenda kujenga mitaro, wataanza kuchimba, wataanza kufanya kazi zile mbaya, lakini wataanza kujiweka busy na vitu ambavyo vinawasaidia maisha.
The Council of Imams and Preachers of Kenya is accelerating efforts to discourage youth from drug abuse and avoid disruptive protests. Speaking at the Tononoka Hall during a youth sensitization meeting, the spokesperson Sheikh Mohammed Khalifa said the youth from Mvita, Kisauni, Likoni, Changamwe, Nyali and Jomvu sub-counties aged between 15 and 30 are still in school or waiting to join university. Now, the main objective of the conference was to educate the youth on how to avoid drug abuse and its consequences. Former Kenyan ambassador to Oman, Sheikh Mohammed Dor, noted that the workshop included education on job opportunities and life skills. The national chairman, Abdallah Ateka, said they would use the council's network to launch youth sensitization meetings in all 47 counties.
Lengo kubwa la hafla hii ya leo, tumeleta wataalam tofauti. Jambo la kwanza, namna gani ya kujiepusha wao katika utumiaji wa madawa kulevya kwa ujumla, kuanzia mongoka, miraa, bangi, heroin, brown sugar na cocaine na vitu vinginevyo na madhara yake hasa kwa wao vijana. Namba 2, tukawatahadharisha wasikubali kutumiwa na wanasiasa ama mtu mwingine yoyote kuwatumia wao kwenda kuleta rabsha, kutukana wanasiasa wengine, kuharibu mikutano ya watu wengine, ama kwenda kuingia katika maandamano halafu wakakubali kufanya mambo ya uharibifu. Wajiepushe kabisa katika mambo ya uharibifu. Na jambo lingine la 3 ni kwamba wajifundishe namna ya kuishi kabla ya ndoa na wakati watakapokuwa na ndoa, na umuhimu katika Uislamu kuoana. Wasikubali mambo ya LGBTQ kabisa. Hao ni watu wabaya wasiofaa katika maadili yao duniani. Na jambo lingine ni kuwahimiza kwamba watunze amani. Amani ni kitu muhimu, ndio kitafanya wao waweze kusoma.
Therefore, ni muhimu sisi kama baraza la maimamu mara kwa mara tuweze kuwapa nasaha vijana wasikate tamaa kwenye masala ya kusoma, wasikate tamaa kwenye masala ya kutafuta kazi na kupata kazi, na baada ya kupata kazi kama Waislamu huwa kijana kama yule ikiwa ni mwanamume lazima atafute mke wa kuoa, na kama ni msichana atafute mume wa kumwoa. Hapa ndo pahali ambapo tumewafahamisha,
na mambo ni haya kuweza kukaa na vijana, kuwapa nasaha, na hasa ile jambo ninavyojua jambo la mgoka hili na mairungi na nini liko sana katika coast, na tunaona kwamba watu mpaka sasa hata serikali ya county inapambana na ile mambo ya mgoka. Kwa hivyo tumeona tuanzie hapa tuweze kuzungumza na vijana na kuwahimiza mambo ya amani pamoja na kuwapa ile maadili wao vijana ambao wanaweza kuwajibika. Najua kwamba hakuna umma wote ambao utaweza kuwa na nguvu bila kuwa na vijana wenye kuwajibika na kujitolea. Lakini tulikuwa na vijana ambao ni wazembe, vijana ambao wamechanganyikiwa na kula vitu ambavyo havieleweki.
Machakos County Governor Wavinya Ndeti has ordered all county departments to ensure that the youth are given opportunities to participate in government tenders. Speaking at a public participation on the proposed Machakos County Youth Empowerment Act of 2024 in Mavoko Sub-County, Governor Wavinya said her government is committed to fully following Article 55 of the Constitution, which requires youth involvement in national development.
Ladies and gentlemen, as public servants, it is our duty to prioritize accountability, transparent fund management, and fulfilling our commitment as entrusted by the people. Recently, the youth have been actively advocating for better governance, recognizing the significant role of young people in governing Kenya and Machakos County. We are dedicated to implementing the 2022 Machakos County Youth Empowerment Act. We are initiating amendments through the Machakos County Youth Empowerment Act Amendment Bill of 2024. Article 55 requires affirmative action to provide young people with access to education, political participation, empowerment, and protection from harmful practices. Nimesema kama wewe ni mfanyikazi wa county, tunaelewana? Tafadhali usiweke mtoto wako hapo, kwa sababu kuna mahali nimepata shida. Kama uko na shida county, mimi ni governor, wewe uko ndani ya serikali, kuja ndani ya serikali usaidiwe ndani ya serikali. Vitu ya raia iwachanwe nayo. Na tumesema hii ng'arisha mtaa na mama, vijana wote wajiandikishe. Nilisema muende kwa machief, mlikutana na maward admin na machief. Mlikutana, mkaandikisha. Sasa hiyo tutachukua wale walijiandikisha kwanza, that is the first lot. Tutaikatanisha na lots, na ninaangalia tena niongeze pesa, nione kama tunaweza kuchukua namba kubwa.
Let's take a look at the newspapers and what is making headlines. So we'll kick it off with the Daily Nation this morning, which marks a very, life-changing event across the Republic of Kenya, and that was on the August 7th, 1998 bombing. So 26 years later, what is the situation, and at least what are some of the reminders of that particular bombing of the U.S. Embassy, which left 213 people dead? So that is the headline on top of the Daily Nation that speaks of the United States ignored Kenyan intel on bombings. United States ignored Kenyan intel on bombings. In the 1998 attack, Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for simultaneous raids on U.S. embassies in Nairobi and in Dar. Costly collapse. On July 28th, that is about 10 days earlier, Kenya's intelligence boss, Brigadier Wilson Boynet, sent an urgent telegram, because back then we didn't have social media or email, it was telegram, to the U.S. embassy in Nairobi. The Americans didn't respond. 10 days later, the ominous warning contained in the intelligence brief would unfold in horrific fashion, leaving hundreds dead and thousands injured. And that is a story that has been covered this morning on the Daily Nation on page 2 and 3 of the Nation. Well, on page 2, it speaks of revealed U.S. ignored Kenyan intelligence on the embassy attack. A woman in Isiolo had overheard terrorists planning to bomb U.S. embassy and Nyali Bridge and passed on the information. That information was passed by Brigadier Wilson Boynet to the U.S. embassy through telegram, but unfortunately, it was never opened. The message was never really opened by the U.S. embassy. It was the sort of classified information that intelligence services routinely shared, but there was some urgency on this particular cable. The Americans didn't respond, and the Kenyan boss of the special branch, the predecessor of the National Security Intelligence Service, followed up with a phone call. Now, yesterday, the Nation obtained a copy of the intelligence brief that was shared with the American embassy that day. And this is what it read. We have learned of the planned attack on the U.S. embassy in Nairobi and the Nyali Bridge. Read the intelligence brief. Prepare accordingly. That was what was in the brief. The same brief was shared with the then Commissioner of Police. 10 days later, the ominous warning contained in the cable would unfold. At about 10:30 a.m. on August 7th, 1998, a lorry laden with explosives pulled up at the entrance to the U.S. Embassy off Haile Selassie Avenue. Armed gunmen engaged guards in a shootout at the security barrier. Then there was a loud explosion, and the skies above Nairobi darkened with a thick smoke. 213 people died. 5,000 people were wounded. So that, is the revealed details of just, there was a prior warning at which the U.S. Embassy didn't quite, adhere to. Also, unseen scars of survivors 26 years after the bomb blast. Of course, many continue to walk with the scars. There were those that were in the buildings. There were those that were within, meters from the building. And of course, there were those that also lost their loved ones in this particular tragedy. And for many, the scars are not just physical, but emotional, etched deeply into their memories. Well, 26 years ago, terrorists bombed the United States Embassy in Nairobi. And some have been able to just tell the story of just, what they were doing on that day and just how they were caught off guard. So that is the headline this morning, even as we celebrate 26, not really celebrate, but just remember 26 years later of this particular bombing that happened in the U.S. Embassy. Also, top of the page, why Gachagua is unhappy with his government. Why Gachagua is unhappy with his government. In the past 2 months, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has come across as a man struggling not to explode over political pressure surrounding him and painting the picture of a tormented soul. So this tormented soul, as the Daily Nation puts it, why is he unhappy in his government? So, number one, he says or talked about a DCI raid on his office and grilling the top staff. We also saw recently that some of the close allies to the Deputy President were grilled as well. Impeachment threats from the National Assembly. You're also looking at being set up against the rest of the country. You've seen leaders who've come out and with little respect to the office itself, leave alone the office holder, but just the office of the Deputy President and some of the things that he have been able to say. Also sponsoring rebellion in Mount Kenya, has been accused of that. He's also failed to put up anti-Raila traps in State House. If you remember back then, he said, he's the one that gives permission on who exactly sees the head of state. So he's failed for that. Attempted murder, abductions and arrests of allies, harassment of Uhuru Kenyatta, delayed implementation of guaranteed minimum returns, frustrations in running UDA party as the deputy party leader, phone taps and other privacy intrusions. He says all phone calls that, go through him are tapped into, or at least are listened into by the National Intelligence Service, scandalizing of his children's businesses, president seen as not protecting him from attacks. So Gachagua reveals why he's unhappy in government, and this he spoke through a local TV station, vernacular TV station, media station actually for that matter, to which he was able to really voice out his concerns, his grievances, his complaints, you may call them, on just what he's going through in government. Also top of the page, NAT threatens strike, teachers strike. The Kenya National Union of Teachers has accused the TSC of delaying remittance of statutory and other deductions such as bank loans and late payment to health providers. And they've actually put the TSC on alert in the government as well. They say, come third term, because the schools have closed right now for the second holiday of the year. And so they've said come third term, they will not be going back to class. And then finally on sports, Kipyegon recovers after 5,000-meter late night drama, cruises into 1,500-meter hits. That is on the Paris Olympics. Now to the Standard newspaper, 10 billion shillings club, tough task awaiting CSs. 10 billion shillings club, the tough task that is awaiting cabinet secretaries. At a crossroads as the nation holds its breath ahead of tomorrow's planned protests, some 20 wealthy Kenyans are praying that they surmount public dissent, vetting and legal hurdles to join Ruto's cabinet. But equally daunting is the task that awaits once they assume office. That is a story that is on page 45 of the Standard newspaper this morning. Now, it's called the 10 billion shillings club because of the net worth, obviously a compilation of all those that appeared, their net worths, and that brings a tally to 10 billion shillings club. So you can call it the billionaires club if you like. But the task, aside from that, also there's a tough task awaiting these cabinet secretaries, not just about what they're getting into the ministries, but also will they be able to get that public confidence that they're able to do their job without, fear or without corruption issues or without, non-leadership qualities. And so at a crossroads, the nation holds its breath ahead of tomorrow's planned protests, which the Gen Zs have called Nane Nane protests. As some 20 wealthy Kenyans, those in the cabinet, are praying that they surmount public dissent, vetting and legal hurdles to join Ruto's cabinet. So it is expected that all the 20 will go through the nomination, or at least through that vetting they will be approved. It is expected that they will be approved, but we wait to see whether or not there will be a contrary decision made. But there's a tough task ahead for the millionaires of this Ruto's docket. It is doubtful that the vetting committee will outrightly reject any of the president's picks. President's move to reinstate some CSs has been criticized by the protesting youth. Now, much like the rest of the country, the CS nominees will closely watch tomorrow's protest, dubbed Nane Nane, whose pressure led to the sacking of Ruto's first cabinet. The selection of some cabinet nominees catalyzed the escalation of the demos. Actions by a selection of former CS recycled from Ruto's last cabinet, such as flaunting opulence, drove the mass to streets in protest. The selection of Kipchumba Murkomen to lead the youth affairs, creative economy and sports docket has been interpreted as a mockery of the demands of Gen Zs and millennials who accused the former roads and transport CS of bragging about his wealth. Equally, the anger of the Gen Zs and millennials is Ruto's apparent pact with Raila, which many have read as cementing the fact that Kenya's political class only cares about actualizing selfish interests. It does not help that all Ruto's picks are wealthy, cumulatively owning 14.7 billion shillings in cash and property. That is against widespread expectation that the head of state promised a broad-based government. And perhaps what many would have expected is that this particular broad-based government would have included people of a lesser net worth, contrary to just some of the figures that were being mentioned in the committee of appointments. But in addition to that, cases test legitimacy of Ruto-Raila picks ahead of swearing in President William Ruto and Raila Odinga. deal on the CSs has been put to test with several cases filed challenging the nominees' validity and the move to have the opposition in government. Parliament will not have the final say, as 2 cases before the Malindi High Court and another in the Milimani High Court challenged the nominees' suitability to be CSs. And of course, the first case was filed by lawyer Saitabao Olekanchori, who argued that the import of the dismissal meant that the dismissed could not hold public office. And so that is a matter that is active in court or live in court, and so we'll comment little on that. But as well, controversy that almost ruined Kenya's golden moment or golden night as Beatrice Chebet wins Kenya its first gold in 5,000 meter at the Paris Olympics, as Faith Kipyegon takes silver in frenzied atmosphere that saw a dramatic finish to her being disqualified and then later on her medal reinstated. But you know, it's all case closed, as she was awarded that medal in that victory ceremony last evening. But how does the athletics medal table look like right now? So at position 1 is United States, who've got a total of 11 medals. That is on the athletics. I mean, just the races only, not any other event. And then you've got Kenya, who actually come in second with 3 medals so far. If we add the one that we got last night in the 3,000 meter steeplechase, that becomes 4. 1 gold, 1 silver, 2 bronze medals. That is what we have as of now. I believe also Uganda, actually it's the South Africa who should be somewhere as well with 4 medals. And then China with 3. China with 2, pardon me, Ukraine with 3, and Great Britain with 2. That is on the athletics track. So also there's a lot of concern over just how Team Kenya performed in France on the athletics track. And there have been calls on perhaps, you know, tougher trials to ensure that it's not just the those who've been there before, but also to include more people to the athletics track. But in addition, live up to your office, MPs tell Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. A section of Mount Kenya MPs have openly criticized the Deputy President's leadership style, urging him to embody national unity befitting his office. Yet again, the DP and the woes. But finally, to the Star newspaper, Kenya faces Djibouti in Raila's AU job hunt. Kenya faces Djibouti in Raila's AU hunt. Test on diplomatic prowess as Odinga battles it out with Djibouti's Ali Yusuf. Now we're looking at a timeline of February 2025 is when we're expecting that the AU African Union Commission chairperson elections will be held. And that pits Raila Odinga against the Djibouti Prime Minister, that is Ali Yusuf. And that is a story that is on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper this morning. Diplomatic fire as Kenya faces Djibouti in Raila AU job quest. Interestingly, he was in the country yesterday and was received by Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi, who also doubles up as the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. So Kenya's diplomatic prowess will be tested to the limit as government mounts a continent-wide campaign for former Prime Minister Raila Odinga in his quest to be the next chairman of the African Union Commission. The vote could easily be seen as a referendum on President William Ruto's influence in the region as he pushes for Raila, his newfound political soulmate. Now, the deadline for nominations lapsed on Tuesday, narrowing the race down and opening an avenue for likely Raila victory. At the time of going to press, only Raila and Djibouti's Mahamoud Ali Yusuf had submitted their nomination papers. Mauritius was also reported to have compiled with the deadline, but the Star could not independently confirm this. However, Somalia's Fawiza Adam and Seychelles contender Vincent Meriton dropped out of the February 2025 race. So at the moment, we just have 2 names, and that is Ali Yusuf of Djibouti and Raila Odinga of Kenya. So let us look at the history of the AU commissioners. From 2002 to 2003, we had Ivory Coast, Amara Essi. From there, 2003 to 2008, we had Mali's Alpha Omar Konare. From 2008 to 2012, we had Gabon's John Ping Ping. And then South Africa took charge from 2012 to 2017 with Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. And then finally Musa Faki from 2017 to 2025 from Chad. And so is this Kenya's time and Kenya's turn to be able to get into that very, very powerful position. So that is the headline on top of the daily, of the Star this morning. Pardon me. Kenya faces Djibouti in Raila's AU job hunt. The men you see on top of the page: 5 arrested in connection with Waraka robberies, robbery with violent suspects. Eric Muiru, Reynard Mwangi, Alex Kibogoro, Stephen Kamau, and Morgan Mungai were arrested and are currently being detained at the Kiambu County Police Station. So those are your headlines this morning on the Star, the Standard, and the Daily Nation. So at this point, allow us to take a quick breather. But when we come back, we'll be getting into the conversation this morning. I'll be joined in studio by the Miss Global Princess Kenya teen winner, that is Chelsea Achieng Odongo. So she'll be joining me on set, and she'll be taking us through her journey, particularly winning this kind of award. What does this mean for her, and what are her expectations, as well as how the industry is looking like, and much more concerning this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
All right, good morning. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Morning Live, 7th day of August 2024. We'd love to get into the conversation this morning. This is around the modeling world, or at least what they say, the pageantry world. Some of the, things to consider before you actually begin your career in this particular industry, just some of the biggest challenges that are there, and where we are as a country right now in terms of, are we, boosting our models with enough pageantry events that they can attend to? How can they get sponsorship? How difficult is it to actually get sponsorship? And much more, as well as the future of this particular industry, considering that this is a third world country. And so that means, we are likely to lag behind more often than not. So we'll be having that conversation around that. But let me introduce my guest in studio very quickly. I'm joined by Chelsea Achieng Odongo, who's the Miss Global Princess Kenya teen winner. Asante sana, Chelsea, for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
And incidentally, you have a name of my favorite team, so hopefully we can be best friends because of that. So thank you for joining us yet again. And just looking at what tops it up for you, obviously, is this Miss Global Princess Kenya. But let us just try to understand you, and at least where your journey began before you got to this point where you are now, so you can take us through it.
Okay, I began modeling last year, September, when I joined campus, and I tried with Miss Fresher.
Yes.
Miss Fresher, St. Paul's University, Limuru campus. Mm-hmm. And I got the title. Yes. Yeah, that's where my modeling began.
Right. Is this something that perhaps when you joined campus is when you realized you could actually model, or did it stem back maybe to high school days as well?
No, when I was in high school, I wanted to model, but my parents were strict, so I couldn't. Yeah. So when I joined campus, that's where I began my modeling. Right.
Did it turn out as you had expected when you started modeling, or was it maybe something entirely different from what you had expected?
Let me say, when we starting with Miss Fresher,
yes,
I was not supposed to model. Mm-hmm. My trainer came and told me, you look like a model. Uh-huh. Yeah, you look like a model. Please try Miss Fresher. And that's where I began. Mm-hmm. And I never gave up. Yeah, I went for many events.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll come to just the various events that you've been to. Mm-hmm. But take me through about your first event, which was Miss Fresher. Mm-hmm. Take us through, that being on the stage for the first time, having to, you know, work with designers or work with makeup artists for the first time? How was that for you?
It was frightening because it was my first time. I've joined school, I don't know people. Yeah. It was somehow frightening, frustrating. Yeah.
What was frustrating about it? Was it the fact that perhaps you needed finances? Or was it, you know, also you're new to the industry, or maybe you're just, you know, done with, you know, the modeling training? What was frustrating about it?
First, I was new in the industry. Secondly, I didn't know much about works, turns, something like that. Yeah. I can't say about the designers because they were only 2 categories. Yeah.
So you were only working with 2.
Yeah.
All right. So take us through also now the other events that came on coming up for you and at your disposal for you to work in.
Apart from Miss Fresha Limuru campus, I went for Fire and Ice Queen and I was first runners up. Then I tried Miss Limuru. I never got anything, but I never gave up. Then Miss Global Princess.
Yeah. So Miss Limuru was sort of also you've expanded a bit, you know. You're going to meet people from obviously other campuses or maybe other schools. Was that also a challenge? Because, you know, for the fresher, obviously it's the students within the school, but this other one, you're broadening your horizons. How was that?
It was frightening because I found myself the youngest. Yeah, something like that. And you're like, oh, this one knows work, this one knows dance. Yeah, something like that.
Okay. So for the Miss Global, you know, teen one, talk to us about how you got that qualification or at least that invite and you're able to go out and participate in that, and just take us through that global competition.
Okay. I saw the poster in my friend's status. Then I contacted the number. Then we didn't go for auditions, but we paid the registration fees. Yeah.
And then they just called you?
Yes, they just called me. So during the event, it was not that easy because people are from Nakuru, Mombasa, Kisumu. Yeah.
So it was only getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I was like, let me just enjoy the runway. Yeah.
So for this particular one, did the categories broaden a bit in terms of you needed to work with different types of wares, different types of designers? Did it broaden that way?
Yeah.
How was that?
It was not so much easy because of the expenses. You have to pay the designer, you have to make up yourself, something like you have to make your nails. Yeah, it was not easy.
Yeah. How did you work around the financial challenges?
Okay, as per me, my parents know, and I just faced them and told them everything, and they helped me out.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you've encountered so far within the industry?
Let me say the outfits, the categories. Yeah. Sometimes you want to go for a certain event, and you don't have finances. Yeah. And you don't have finances, maybe the categories. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, it is said that, you know, for at least modelers like you and many more, there's always a purpose or a reason as to why they model, or at least a theme that they'd love to be identified with. You know, you've got people that are modeling, you know, for children's rights, you've got people that are modeling for women's rights, you've got people that are modeling for, you know, for men's rights as well. So for you, what is it that you're passionate about, that you want to advocate more through the art that you do?
I want to open my own modeling school. Yeah. And encourage those who feel like they want to model but they can't. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And you know, with that in mind, what kind of people do you expect to work with, at least to be able, because it's not just a one person industry, it needs sort of teamwork. And so who would you hope that you're able to knock on those particular doors and they'll be able to open, so that you can join hands and be able to open your own modeling academy one day?
As for me, when the more I model, the more I expand. I was looking for a sponsor, so at least to help, with
So far, if I got that right, you've done 3 events. 3 events.
Miss Fresha, Fire and Ice Queen, Miss and Mr. Limuru.
And so those are 4.
Yeah.
So if you look at a comparison, if you're able to do a comparison between the first time and the 4th time, what would you say you have improved, and how much has that contributed to your success so far?
I've improved on the walks, the turns, and the confidence.
Yeah. I think that's a big one, especially the confidence. Yeah. And so what are you looking forward to in terms of various events that you'd love to be part of?
I want to become a big model, be identified, not just I don't want to be identified because I'm a model. Yes, because of the work that I'm doing.
Yeah. All right. No, if you look at the industry in Kenya right now, of the modeling industry, where would you say we are at now? Because one thing that from where I sit, that has cut across in terms of all models is that there's no, events that are being put up where you can actually go and, how would I put it? The organizations that are in the industry, which are in charge of organizing events. I'll talk about, for instance, Miss World Kenya, Mr. World Kenya, and those that are at the center of organizing those kind of events. They've not really been able to do grassroots levels where you're able to say, I can get a pageant event quite easily accessible, maybe in Limuru or in Nairobi. And that has been one of the biggest challenges that I've seen cut across models. Does that apply for you the same in terms of you're able to get access to events? You never know, perhaps there's an event somewhere. Is that something that you've experienced?
Not really. Let me say not really.
Yeah. So what would you say about the industry?
About the industry, it depends with the events also. It depends with the organizers also. Yeah. You might find good organizers, you might find bad organizers. You might find good organizers who their events are fair. You might find other organizers that are just up to money. Yeah.
All right, so I'd love us to take a break. When we come back, we'll be able to just take us through some few walks here and there, some of the basics of what those who are looking at home would love to be able to do. And so when we come back, Chelsea here will be doing for us some practical skills on just the runway. What are some of the things you need to do, some of the things you need to consider. So stay. All right, good morning, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. So we are up and standing, and Chelsea is still here with me in studio, the Miss Global Princess Kenya teen winner, who's just about to take us through some of the basics. We can't teach you everything in a day, by the way. So these are just some of the basics for those that would love to get into the industry, how they need to walk, their postures, they need to get it right. And so Chelsea, over to you, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for a beginner,
yes,
you have to stand as T-shaped, your head above, or you have to stand like this.
So I need to make a T with my body?
Yeah, a T.
Okay.
Or you can stand like this, then you start the walk. Yeah. Stage presence. You have to close the runway. Yeah.
So I think one thing I've noticed is that while walking, there's a way the body moves. It's not like just the normal walk, but there's a way the body moves. So I don't know, how is that the case?
You know, it's a pageant, and you are competing for a crown. But if you walk like this one is a high fashion. You're showcasing, you're showcasing the outfits. Yeah.
So maybe you can take us through that one more time.
Okay. The T-shirts.
Then a very slow walk. And do people get this like from the get-go, or does it need, practice?
Practice. Yeah.
And also, it's sort of like, it's a slow walk, contrary to perhaps the high fashion, as you've said, where it's always, they're like very serious and walking. But this one looks like you can smile when you're walking slowly. And so that brings me now actually to the types of pageantry events that are there, because you've said there's the high fashion, then there's the showcasing as well. So what other types are there?
Other types? There are those two.
Okay. So is that something you'd love to also get into, the high fashion one?
No.
Why not? Why not?
In high fashion,
maybe we can turn this way.
In high fashion, they are looking at you're tall. If you're tall, if you're short, you can't.
All right, so maybe closing remarks as we conclude to the young girls, young boys as well that are watching and would love to get into the industry. What can you get them to understand about the industry before they get into it?
Okay, they should never give up. Pray, 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 and pray. Yeah. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much, Chelsea, for coming in this morning just to give us a sneak peek of just, your life, a bit about some of the pageant events that you've been through so far. But I know there are many more that are definitely coming that you'll be able to be part of, and we wish you the best very much. And congratulations as well for bagging that Miss Global Princess Kenya teen winner. So we wrap it up at that point, ladies and gentlemen. I was joined in the studio by Chelsea Achieno Dongo, who's a Miss Global Princess Kenya teen winner. And that is all we had for you this morning. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed morning and Wednesday.